What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back. We got a lot to unpack with a very, very busy start to free agency as we have expected. The one thing I will say is free agency this year compared to some of the previous years is taking a little time to build up. Some of the first moves once the clock hit weren't the typical big, sexy splashes. I was a person that was in the belief that as soon as the clock hit, we would start to see the dominoes fall. Paul George would be announced. KCP would be gone. Maybe something with Klay Thompson. But the first few moves was like Luke Cornett, or Royce O'Neal, I think got extended. Maybe the Chris Paul move, things of that nature. Kevin Love going back to the Heat. And then as the day had progressed, and even into today, early in the mornings, 2 a.m. in the morning, we got the Paul George, the very, very big domino of free agency, which to a certain extent, we kind of could write it in, right? Once he opted out into free agency, we knew that took away the chances of the Golden State Warriors to acquire him, something that I personally would not have minded seeing. And then also, there was a point in free agency yesterday during the day where the Clippers just basically came out and announced, hey, Paul George and us are far apart in contract negotiations, that we have come to the conclusion that Paul George would not return to the Clippers. Once they pretty much announced that, it was like he's a Philadelphia 76er. The Magic had went out and got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Once they got Pope, that left them with about $30 million in cap, which essentially took them out of the running of the Paul George race too. So all signs pointed to Philadelphia. I think all signs have pointed to Philadelphia for a while now. If there was ever any chance of him leaving the Clippers, it felt like it was Philadelphia to be the team. Now, I will say, I did get a little bit intrigued with the possibility of him being in Golden State, just because anytime you compare somebody with that monster of a system that they have over there, plus Steph Curry, you're intrigued by that. But I think Philadelphia is probably the best spot for Paul George in this phase of his career as a Paul George fan. You go over there with a team that had a bunch of money, so he was able to get paid. Paid a lot more than what the Clippers were willing to give him. Then you also put him in a particular role that I think is real good for Paul George at the age that he's in. I think Paul George is 33 or 34 years old. Now you put him in a situation where he is playing third fiddle behind Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and he offers them something that they really need, which is wing depth and somebody who can play off of the basketball at a high level, while also having a part to his game where he can have nights where he is the one that's carrying y'all if Joel Embiid, is not going to be available, or different things like that. Paul George still has the capability of being an isolation player, playing out of the pick and roll, and then defensively, he's going to cause turnovers with his steals and playing in the passing lanes. Definitely not the same athletic wing that he used to be. I think Paul George had like less than 30 dunks last year, doesn't get to the free throw line as much, and obviously the athleticism isn't at its peak, it's tough to continue to be that elite defender as far as on ball, I'm locking you down. He still shows signs here and there, and he's still going to be an above average defender just because of the turnovers that he can cause. But overall, I think you got a really complete wing who is going to come in and contribute to what they're trying to do in Philadelphia, who also went out and got Drummond. They added Eric Gordon. They brought back Kelly Oubre. I'm loving the free agency that the 76ers are having thus far. And it's a very interesting concept, because when you look at how free agency has become with the first apron and the second apron and all of these different things, Daryl Morey came out not recently, but there was a time where Daryl Morey was talking about, the new CBA and all of those different things and how to structure teams and if his approach would change. And Daryl Morey is a guy that has not changed his philosophy. He wants to add stars. He wants to add star power. He wants to get the best available players that can take his team to the next level. And the best thing he said out of that response to having the same philosophy and same mindset was like, the fun part to him is to find the diamonds in the roughs, like Kelly Oubre, when nobody was really showing Kelly Oubre any interest or love, like finding a Kyle Lowry. When you look at what he did in Houston, he found a Daniel House. Daniel House wasn't a household name, pun intended, before the Rockets' little James Harden era. Even the value of PJ Tucker under Houston, went up super crazy. I remember when they added and brought back some life to Eric Gordon and Austin Rivers. Daryl Morey finds a challenge in creativity and putting together these teams where you have these high value players like a Embiid, Maxey, who just got extended, and Paul George, where that's 3 max contracts. Now his job gets tougher because he has to go into the cracks of free agency or the buyout market and try to figure out these high value guys that may not have a high value perception at the time. And based on his history, he has done a very good job of that. So we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think when you have such a dominant force like Joel Embiid, you went out and found a very good complementary guard player in Tyrese Maxey. You throw Paul George into the mix, you bring back Kelly Oubre, you get a backup center like Andre Drummond, you have the type of draft you have when you were able to go out and get a young shot maker in Jared McCain, and they're going to continue to add Eric Gordon, another veteran shooter who is familiar with Daryl Morey. This team is crushing it right now. I'm very interested to see the rest of the moves that they make. I don't know what's up with them in the Klay Thompson stuff. A lot of the Klay Thompson stuff we're seeing is like the Lakers stuff where LeBron is willing to take the pay cut if they can get a guy like Klay Thompson. Obviously, the Orlando Magic was in that conversation. Don't know how much they're in the conversation since they have KCP now. And then you have the Mavericks, who have kind of dominated the Klay Thompson talk with the sign and trade potential or whatever. So don't know if Philadelphia is out of that running, but I would pay attention to that too, because if Philadelphia can leave free agency with Paul George, Klay Thompson, and all of the rest of the others that they're going to bring in or bring back, they are really going to be the big winners of free agency. Another thing that makes teams like Philadelphia winners, or even Orlando, is the fact that in my Knicks, Boston is the reigning champs. And then when you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, the Knicks have taken a step. Sixers have now taken a step. The Magic have even taken a step. The Bucks have done nothing. And the Heat have done nothing but bring back Kevin Love. So not only are these other teams getting better, but you are also, not allowing the Bucks and the Heat to continue to get better. So the Eastern Conference is definitely striking up to be interesting, because you still have to respect the Bucks, you still have to respect the Heat, but there's definitely a case of saying that those teams had some holes last year and they are not doing anything as of right now, because we're only 1 day into free agency. They're not doing anything to really fix those holes. So I think the Eastern Conference is going to be a dogfight again, but I think there are going to be some teams that have to really make some moves and figure out how to compete with the rest of the Eastern Conference teams that are finding ways to get better. And we are going to have a conversation going into the season next year where we look at the Celtics like, hey, maybe they can start to turn into a team that could potentially cultivate a dynasty type, run, maybe, if there is not going to be any teams that are finding ways to get better. So I'm looking at that. I really, really love the start that Philadelphia has had to free agency. Tyrese Maxey also got the extension, $203 million extension. It's $40 million annually, the average annual value. Paul George is at 52.8, basically $53 million average annually. I think Drummond got a 2-year, a little above $10 million. Eric Gordon down here. Where are you, Eric Gordon? What did you get? $3 million deal for Eric Gordon on a 1-year contract. So they're really knocking it out the park right now as far as Philadelphia. Some of the other moves that we could talk about, obviously, we have to talk about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope going to the Orlando Magic. I really love this deal for both sides. The Magic really went in and got a guy that I think complements the hell out of them. KCP is a winner. He has 2 rings now with the Lakers and also the Denver Nuggets. And he is very effective in what they need. So you don't want to lose your defensive identity, which I don't think anybody that they were rumored to bring in would have done that, because they're just that good of a defensive unit. But the fact that you're able to go in and bring somebody who is going to continue to amplify the defense and gives you a way to get even better. Plus, he gives you the 3-point shooting that you've been missing. And he's a vet who has playoff experience and different things like that. And he doesn't command too much offensive attention. So I think this is a home run hit because it checks off the big boxes, the little boxes, and the intricate boxes. So the big boxes is the 3-point shooting. We know that they really needed 3-point shooting, and they needed some experience and some veteran presence into the young locker room that they have. The small boxes is not taking a big step back defensively. You know what I mean? And, not necessarily gutting up all of the money that you had in free agency. And then the intricate ones is, again, you adding shooting, but you're also adding a winner, and you're adding somebody who's going to come in and help y'all without being too much of a takeaway from what you were already doing. You didn't want anybody who, was going to have to figure out how to play with Paolo Banchero. As much as Paul George sounded good in Orlando, as much as intrigue it probably had for Orlando people, Paul George was going to command a $53 million salary. Paul George is a guy that was going to have to figure out how to play with Paolo Banchero. Obviously, not to the same extent as some other stars. I think Paul George is one of the best plug-and-play stars that you have. But because Paul George is also a guy that can get isolations, can play with the ball in his hands, do pick and rolls, there was going to be some type of feel and configuration to that team. Now with KCP, he's really still the same guy. He's going to come off some pin downs, be able to curl into mid-range shots, catch and shoot threes, and then he's going to guard in the backcourt with Suggs. So I really love this move, and plus it only cost you $22 million. The third year is a player option, which I love for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think that was great, marketing for the agency, clutch. You go out there, you get, 2 years of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope at, $20+ million. And then in that third year, he's able to go right back into free agency, where if he kills it with Orlando, his value is only going to go up. And if it doesn't go so well, he just accepts the player option. You know what I mean? He has that last year to bet on himself. It's just a really, really good deal all the way around. I love that for Orlando. Can't wait to see what else they do, because they, like I said, they still have about $30 million to play with in free agency. The market is not too hard pressed. It's only, when I'm looking at the names, it's only like 35 guys that got taken off the board, right? And you got OG, who you knew was going back to the Knicks, Paul George, Pascal, Claxton, Pat Will, Hartenstein, which we'll talk about, is gone. Harden went back. There's still some options out here. You know what I mean? I look at a team. I mean, not a team, but I look at a guy like Caleb Martin for the Miami Heat. He's still in free agency. I look at somebody like Kyle Anderson from the Timberwolves. He's still out here. I'm looking at all of the available free agents right now. Malik Beasley is out there. Nicholas Batum, Sadiq Bey. There's a lot of names that are still out here. Alec Burks is out there. Who else do we have? DeMar DeRozan. We still don't know what DeMar DeRozan is doing. Not saying that the Magic are going to go get him, but there's still some life left in the free agency pool and in the free agency market, where you can continue to build on what you're doing. So technically, Luke Kennard is still out here. They say him and the Grizzlies are going to try to rework a new deal, but he's still technically out there. Tyus Jones. Who else is out here? THT, Taylor Horton Tucker. Buddy Hield is still out here. Gordon Hayward. You still have Gary Harris, Goga Badadze. Those are two of their own players. Markelle Fultz is another one of their own players who I think we are expecting to leave Orlando. You have a veteran like Kyle Lowry, because you're going to lose a Markelle Fultz. There are some names out here. Like I said, Caleb Martin, DeAnthony Melton is an unrestricted free agent. I like what is still left on the market for a team like Orlando, who still has some money to necessarily, play with and spread around. That would be the method that I would take if I was Orlando, coming off of getting KCP, which I think is a really good get. I would look to spread some of this money around. Take some risks, take some chances, some low risk, high reward chances. Of course, you're not trying to, do any long-term deals, but a Gary Trent Jr. is still out here. Maybe you get a front-loaded 1 year, 1+1 deal with a Gary Trent or something like that. There are some guys that I think you'll be able to convince to take a bet on themselves to get a nice little 1 year payday. So, shout out to the Orlando Magic. Shout out to KCP. Shout out to Clutch. One of my favorite moves that I was hoping would happen. I was hoping that there was two things. Either KCP and Paul George both go to 76ers in the Eastern Conference. There's just like a dogfight out there. Or one of each goes to the other team. And now it's kind of spread across. So now the Magic got better, the Sixers got better, you know what I mean? And different things like that. Other news, we might as well talk about it. Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein went to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And of course, I'm a Knicks fan. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I really don't have a problem with it for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Knicks did everything they could to retain him. We took care of what we needed to take care of, which was retaining OG Anunoby. That was our priority. And then going out and getting Mikal Bridges. Those two moves is what puts us in and ushers us into a different conversation as far as how teams view us in the future or into next year, right? I love Isaiah Hartenstein. I think he fit perfect. I can't be mad at him because he went out and got $15 more million. And he's only 25 years old. You got to go get paid. And not only is that, he's not taking a payday to go play for the Wizards. You know what I'm saying? He went and got his payday while going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is going to continue to put him in a situation where he's going to be able to play winning basketball and be valued by a franchise and their fan base. Everywhere Isaiah Hartenstein is going, he's been beloved by fan bases because he does the blue collar stuff that fan bases love, which is go out, play hard, and do all of the little extra shit that doesn't show up in the box score, essentially. And if it does, it's not the most glorified thing that show up in the box score. That's why it was loved in Denver. That's why it was loved in Houston. That's why it was loved. I think he played in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. Did he play in Philadelphia? Isaiah Hartenstein has played for a lot of teams. I'm doing this off the head, y'all. Let's see. I want to just check because Isaiah Hartenstein has been around the league, even at that 25-year age. Isaiah Hartenstein has played for Houston. He's played for Denver. He's played for the Clippers, not Philadelphia. The Clippers. They were the same color. He played for the Clippers. I do not remember him in with the Cavs. But yes, the Clippers, not the Philadelphia 7, the Clippers. I'm sorry. And then the Knicks. And so now he's going to go to the Thunder, and they're going to love him. I'm telling you right now, there's nothing. It's not that hard to predict. It's not like, Nostradamus. They're going to love him because he's going to play extremely hard. He's going to do all of the little things that nobody else is trying to do and all of the things that correlate into winning basketball. So I can't be mad at that. We had $72 million for him. They gave him 87. It's not, it's not rocket science. It's really not rocket science. Now, I do believe and hoped that he was going to stay with the Knicks. One of the things, and I'm sorry I got to be on my phone, y'all, because free agency is going just that way. But I do think that sometimes, and this is the hard part about free agency for players and for agents, there is this thing in my mind where I think about it for myself, and I asked some people yesterday when we were in the Discord. When you are a player and you come up through the ranks, and not even necessarily the ranks, but when you're being introduced to the game by your father, usually is what it is, or your brother, or maybe a coach or uncle, we're being taught that the game is about winning. You play the game to win. But the older you get, and the older I get, especially when we look at the NBA, which is the place that every young kid wants to be able to be a part of, you see that this is a lot about money. A lot of this shit is not about winning, as they say. You know what I mean? When you go out and you play, a lot of it is about winning. But if this was all about winning, how many of these guys would go to teams that give them the best chance to win? We've seen so many guys basically leave situations because, hey, this team can give me $17 more million. This team can give me this more money. You know what I mean? This team is going to give me more opportunity. We saw Peyton Pritchard damn near request a trade out of Boston a few years ago when they lost they went to the finals, and he was like, man, I need some player time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's not even a star player. So this shit is about convenience. That's what it's about. Who can give me the best chance to play, pay me, and then also if all of those things collide, if I'm lucky to have all three things align, I'll be able to play on a team that can also win. But if not, players are going to go for the opportunity because the opportunity equals the bag. Plain and simple. Go to where you can play. Go to where you can have exposure. Go to where you can reach your fullest potential to reach your fullest value to then get the fullest, biggest bag that you can get. And in the back end of all of that, if the last thing can be playing for a winner, then I'm great. And I think that was one of the situations that Isaiah Hartenstein was put in, where he was able to get the bag. OKC is going to give him opportunity. And then last but not least, they're still going to be able to compete. So I can't be mad at that at all. I cannot be mad. Now, I will say, if Isaiah Hartenstein had left the Knicks to go to, I'm just throwing shit out there. I don't even know how much money they, but if he would have went to the Pistons, I do not think he would have, I would have said he set himself up for failure. I would have said that, because we see so many times players be a part of good teams and good runs and good situations, and then the value goes up, and then they leave that situation. Can't argue against it for that bag, because you don't know how often the bag is going to come, and then they go, and then their value diminishes because they're not on the same type of team. But I think in this situation, he's still on a really good team, if not a better team, because they were the number 1 seed last year. They're still younger than us, and they're only going to continue to get better. They went out and added Alex Caruso. So I love this move for Isaiah Hartenstein. We love Isaiah Hartenstein, whether he's a Knick or not. He came in and gave his all. So whenever a player does that for your franchise, and not only for your franchise, but when you look around, Isaiah Hartenstein was a 2nd-round pick at 43 to the Rockets, and he's grinded. He played 28 games his first year. He played 23 games the next year. He played 46 games that following year with the Cavaliers and the Nuggets. And then he had his career year with the Clippers, where he was finally able to play 68 games and gave them 8-5 off the bench. And then he went to the Knicks that first year and was solid. And then this last year was the best year we've ever seen from Isaiah Hartenstein, where he averaged 8-8 and 25 minutes a game and started almost 50 games for us. Shot 60% from the field, which is a career high. And he shot 66 in 1 year, but he only played 23 games. So you respect the grind, man. From that to being a $29 million man per year is something that we applaud around here. So shout out to Isaiah Hartenstein. Shout out to the Thunder. They continue to build and get better. I'm very interested to see how this team plays out, because you now have 2 acquisitions who play positions that some of your other guys play. So, for example, they went out and got Caruso. Caruso plays the same position as Lu Dort. They went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein. He plays the same position as Chet Holmgren. So are they going to play Chet and him? I think they are. They're going to experiment for sure. But I think the main value of Chet, or one of the biggest values of Chet, is him at the 5 and being able to pull up and shoot threes and shit like that. So how are they going to start it? And then Lu Dort and Caruso, I think Caruso comes off the bench because he's already was doing that in Chicago a little bit. But I think if you do have a team where Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein are the 2 bench pieces with Isaiah Joe, something decent. Continue to talk about the Thunder and some of the other moves that they made. They also brought back Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. And what I love about the Thunder just do shit right, man. These are 2 dudes that they had a part of their systems, and they declined those deals that they had, and they brought them back on really big paydays considering who they are. $12 million for Isaiah Joe, 11.7, almost $12 million for Aaron Wiggins, both almost making $50 million over the next 4 years. It's brilliant. Whenever you're able to find these 2 type of players, Aaron Wiggins, you drafted in the 2nd round and has developed, and Isaiah Joe, you took when the Philadelphia 76ers waived him. When I was on Twitter calling him a steal in the draft because he was going to give the 76ers supreme 3-point shooting, and they just couldn't find a way to extract that talent. OKC said another man's trash is another man's treasure. And they were able to flip his career and do the things that I thought he was going to be able to do in Philadelphia. And now they're paying and rewarding him. And they're just doing things the right way. They're drafting right. They're going through free agency right. They're handling their draft capital right. Even with all the picks that they have, we have not seen them really trade them loosely for anything. When you have that many picks, it's so easy to be like, you know what, let's just take a chance on this. Let's just take a chance on that. Let's just give them 3 picks to just get. Sam Presti ain't doing that. Sam Presti did not give up a single pick for Alex Caruso. It is so easy to fall into the trap of saying, man, we got a million picks anyway, and we really want this guy. Let's just give him one. They found a way to have all of those picks and to keep them close to their chests, even with the knowledge of knowing that they don't need all of those damn picks and can't use them all. They just can't. Next year, they're going to have 5 first-round picks. Now, a couple of those picks, potentially 1, may not convey because of the protections, but that's still 4. They don't have room to bring back any more than one pick per draft these days. So now if you're talking about they bringing 3 to 4, they literally cannot do it. But teams still are not finding ways um to be able to convince them to give them any more than what they're saying they can have. So um shout out to the Thunder. Looking around the rest of the league, man, the Washington Wizards went out and got Jonas Valanciunas on a $10 million deal, no player option. I really like this deal for them. Just gives them a big man upside with Sarr now, so Sarr doesn't have to necessarily play a bunch of center minutes. So shout out to them. Other big news: Derrick Jones Jr. goes to the Clippers. This was a curveball to me. When I seen that he changed Clutch Sports, I thought two things: he's either gone or he's about to get an overpay from the Mavericks. The Mavericks didn't pay him, is what I thought. And then they went and got Najee Marshall for $9 million a year over 3 years at $27 million. So I'm like, oh man, that means Derrick Jones Jr. finna go somewhere and get like $15 million at the, you know what I mean? $15 million. I think he'd get like 12 at the lowest, $15 million. Just for him to turn around and go to the Clippers and get $10 million. I'm so confused on what happened. I just don't understand. He got the same amount of years as Najee Marshall. He's just making $3 more million. So is he that greedy, and I don't want to use the word greedy in that way. Get your bag, young man. But was the $3 million that important to him or that important to the Mavericks? You know what I mean? I'm looking at both of them funny because Dallas, just give that man the extra $3 million, man. Please. And Derrick Jones Jr., it's like, I say it so many times. Again, you need to get your bag for sure. But at the same time, I think it's super, super important to know where your value came from. If it was me, I'm getting my bag, but I'm also trying to stay as close as to where my value was at its peak. What got me in this position to get my bag? Playing with this team, playing this role, and having this type of success. So I want to stay as closest to that as possible. He's going to the Clippers, and he is now probably going to be the person that has to replace the Paul George minutes. And I'm not saying he can't be good over there. I think Derrick Jones Jr. has always been solid, and I think last year was the year where a lot of those tools and potential kind of came together all at once, and we were able to see it all on display. But that Clippers team is a little shaky. They're another Kawhi injury away from not necessarily having that same type of year. They're a little bit older, and losing Paul George just makes it a little bit more straining for Kawhi to have to play on a night-by-night basis. You know what I mean? Unless James Harden is really going to take it up to another notch while Kawhi has his rest. This is going to be a very interesting team. I would have loved to see Derrick Jones Jr. stay in Dallas, and I would have loved to see them try to sign and trade for Klay Thompson to keep that team as close as possible to last year's championship run while minusing Tim Hardaway Jr. and adding Klay Thompson. I think that would have been a beautiful offseason. I hated to see these two parties go separate ways over a $3 million difference. Makes no sense for me. The year that Derrick Jones Jr. had, you would not think that he would then go into free agency and have a $3 more million value over Najee Marshall. Based off the 2 seasons they both had last year, I would have thought that Derrick Jones Jr. would have been a plus $10 million over Najee Marshall personally. That's just me. Chris Paul goes to the San Antonio Spurs. This is like a offseason. This is a thing I did on 2K, like on my league. I had him go to the Spurs, except I had him traded in my last rebuild that I did because it just makes too much sense, man. Chris Paul, a veteran, he is a winner. He doesn't have to go around trying to hop around for a championship. If he would have got it, he would have got it. But I think Chris Paul is going to be remembered as one of the greatest point guards of all time anyway. And I think this is good for him. Don't go to LA or all of these complicated situations where it's not certain. Your value with the San Antonio Spurs will not waver. You're going to have a chance to teach these guys, be a mentor. Your voice is going to speak loud. And I think that's where he's always been at his best, Chris Paul, is being on teams that value the information that he has and that is going to allow him to lead. We saw last year with the Warriors, there's a lot of guys on the team that has experience, championship experience. There's a lot of guys that know stuff. Draymond, and Steph Curry and Clay, Steve Kerr. Now you go to a team and him and Pop are the two smartest people in the building. And now, whenever he's talking in the locker room, whenever he's talking in film, whenever he's talking on the floor, on the bench, his voice is going to ring louder than it would have on a Laker team or on a Warrior team or on the Clippers team. You know what I mean? Because those teams have vets and guys that's been around the block. So these are my favorite situations for Chris Paul throughout the course of his career. I loved him young on the Hornets. I loved him when he first got to the Clippers as their vet. I loved him when he went to the Thunder that first year. And I love this situation here. Because again, this is his value. This is what makes Chris Paul, being able to go and lead and get the best out of young players. But it just seems a little bit like when Chris Paul starts to be paired with people who kind of don't need the guidance or the coaching or the teaching, it don't hit the same. After a few years with the Clippers where everybody made all-star games and everybody became, stars and playoff appearances, it's kind of like that shit kind of wrung out. The Rocket situation ain't really have. You saw James Harden was kind of getting annoyed with the shit, kind of wrung out. But when it's needed and where it's wanted, Chris Paul voice is extremely valuable and valued in those situations. Other things, Jalen Smith went to the Bulls. This is a solid pickup. Same type of deal as Najee Marshall. 3-year deal, $9 million, $27 overall. Again, Derrick Jones Jr., is he really worth $3 more million than both of these dudes? Based off the year he had last year, I'm surprised by that. I'm just really, really, really surprised. Max Christie got a bigger deal than Derrick Jones Jr. He got a 4-year deal, $8 million per, $32 million overall. Royce O'Neal got $11 million over 4 for $44 million. I'm not sure. I think the biggest head scratcher is going to be the Derrick Jones Jr. deal for me. You know what I'm saying? Derrick Jones Jr. is 27 years old. Royce O'Neal is 31. Tobias Harris goes to the Detroit Pistons for 2 years, $26 million per, 52 overall. It's going to give them some veteran presence in the locker room. It's going to help them shoot the basketball, space the floor for Cade Cunningham and things like that, and give them some of that punch. So that's really it as of right now. The guys that are still available, we're looking at Klay Thompson to be moved. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Buddy Hield, Evan Fournier, Gary Trent, Markelle, Malik Beasley, Tyus Jones. I'm really interested in seeing what happens with him. Batum, I think, can be a good, late pickup for a contender. DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson. DeAnthony Melton had a very tough year last year with injuries. I'll be very interested to see if there's a team that can convince him to bet on himself. Is there a team that can say, hey, you had a tough year, take this little 1-year deal? Is there a team out there that can do it? That's going to be very interesting to see. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to continue to follow the free agency class. I'm going to continue to update y'all on every single thing. We'll have videos on videos of everything. But yeah, it's been wonderful. We're still waiting on the Klay sign and trade. That's going to be the one that's going to be like, wow. Either Philly is going to add him or the Lakers. Wherever he goes, it's going to be a game changer to the landscape of the league potentially. So I don't want to say it like that, like Kevin Durant type trade, but it's going to be a big deal. Somebody who's already made a move is going to also add Klay Thompson. So make sure y'all keep tuned in to this channel. All offseason updates. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all next time I'm out. Peace.